Dark truth. Most people don't build a future, they chase a feeling. They wake up asking, what do I feel like doing today? And that question quietly becomes the prison they never notice. Feel good? They move. Feel tired? They stop. Feel motivated? They dream. Feel pain? They disappear. And while they surrender their lives to emotions that change every hour, someone else is becoming dangerous in silence. Because feelings are temporary. They rise, they crash, they lie. But discipline keeps walking when emotions quit. While they're searching for comfort, approval, and quick relief, you're stacking choices nobody claps for. You're building something they can't understand yet. They think you're missing out. They think you've become distant. But they don't realize something terrifying. While they followed feelings, you started building a future that feelings could never create. Most people believe they're making decisions. That's the illusion. They think they're in control because they can choose what to do, where to go, what dream to chase. But if you watch closely, if you strip away the excuses and the masks, something unsettling appears. Most people are not leading their lives at all. They're following feelings. Invisible strings pull them in every direction, and they obey without even realizing it. They wake up in the morning and ask themselves a dangerous question. How do I feel today? That single question silently controls everything that follows. If they feel motivated, suddenly they become ambitious. They make plans. They talk about changing their lives. They promise themselves that tomorrow will be different. But motivation fades like smoke. Then the next morning arrives, and the feeling is gone. The fire disappears. The goals disappear with it. Not because the dream wasn't important, but because emotions change direction. And emotions always change direction. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel discouraged, they quit. If they feel afraid, they hide. If they feel uncomfortable, they run back toward what is familiar. Their entire life becomes a reaction. One emotion pulls them forward. Another emotion pulls them backward. They move like leaves caught in a storm, convinced they're choosing the wind while the wind has been choosing them all along. And the strangest part, society tells them this is normal. Follow your heart. Follow your feelings. Do what feels right. Sounds beautiful. Sounds comforting. But feelings are some of the most unstable things a human being possesses. Feelings can make a person feel unstoppable at midnight and completely broken by sunrise. Feelings can convince someone they're a genius one day and a failure the next. They change with stress. They change with opinions. They change with sleep, with rejection, with one bad moment, with one sentence from someone who never believed in them. Imagine building your entire future on something that changes every hour. Imagine handing the steering wheel of your life to emotions that can barely decide what they want. That's what most people unknowingly do. They let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. They let moods decide whether they work or wait, whether they fight or surrender, whether they continue or disappear. You can see it everywhere. People start projects with excitement and abandon them the moment excitement leaves. They enter gyms full of energy in January and vanish when the feeling fades. They say they want success, discipline, greatness, but only if it feels good, only if it feels easy, only if pain doesn't knock on the door, because feelings avoid struggle. Feelings hate uncertainty. The human mind naturally searches for safety, for pleasure, for escape. It whispers dangerous things in quiet moments. Rest today. Start tomorrow. You deserve a break. One delay won't matter, and slowly, almost invisibly, those whispers become habits. Habits become patterns. Patterns become a life. Years pass that way. Not because people are weak, not because they're incapable, but because they never realized who was truly in control. They thought they were making choices while emotions quietly held the pen and wrote the script. They thought they were directing their future while feelings kept changing the map every few hours. And without noticing it, they became servants to temporary states of mind that never intended to lead them anywhere at all. Comfort is dangerous because it never arrives looking like an enemy. It arrives softly, quietly, like a reward, like safety, like peace. That's why most people never notice the trap closing around them. They think comfort is helping them survive, when in reality it's slowly teaching them how to avoid growth. Little by little, it lowers their tolerance for pain, for struggle, for uncertainty, until they become dependent on feeling okay all the time. People think chains are supposed to hurt. They imagine prison as something obvious, something violent, something visible. But the worst chains are invisible. The worst prisons are the ones people decorate and call normal life. A comfortable routine, predictable days, easy distractions, endless entertainment, familiar people, familiar habits. Nothing dangerous, nothing challenging, nothing that forces the mind to evolve. And at first, it feels harmless. Sleeping longer feels harmless. Delaying goals feels harmless. Choosing entertainment over discipline feels harmless. Saying, "I'll start tomorrow," feels harmless. But comfort grows the way rust grows on metal. Slowly, silently, patiently. You don't notice the damage while it's happening. By the time you finally realize something is wrong, your ambition has already weakened. Comfort trains people to escape discomfort instead of confronting it. The moment life becomes difficult, they search for relief instead of strength. Stress appears, and they run toward distractions. Pain appears, and they numb themselves. Fear appears, and they retreat into excuses. They become addicted to avoiding anything that shakes their sense of ease. That's why so many people stay stuck in the same place for years. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack dreams, but because comfort convinces them that movement is dangerous. It whispers carefully crafted lies into their minds every single day. Don't risk it. Stay where it's safe. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't fail publicly. Don't struggle. Don't suffer. And the human mind listens because comfort feels good in the moment. That's the terrifying part. Comfort rewards weakness immediately, while discipline rewards strength later. Most people choose what feels good now, without realizing they're sacrificing who they could become later. Look at how people react to hardship. The second something becomes difficult, they start negotiating with themselves. One bad day becomes a reason to quit. One rejection becomes proof they're not capable. One failure becomes an excuse to return to safety. Comfort teaches people to treat discomfort like danger, when discomfort is often the exact place where growth begins. The gym feels uncomfortable. Learning feels uncomfortable. Change feels uncomfortable. Sacrifice feels uncomfortable. Waking up early feels uncomfortable. Building a future feels uncomfortable. And because most people spend their lives chasing comfort, they unknowingly train themselves to avoid the very things that could transform them. Then something strange happens over time. Their world becomes smaller. Their confidence becomes weaker. Their tolerance for pressure disappears. Small problems begin to feel overwhelming because they've spent years protecting themselves from challenge instead of adapting to it. Comfort slowly removes sharpness from the mind. It softens discipline. It weakens resilience. It creates dependency, and society encourages it everywhere. Endless scrolling, instant pleasure, instant validation, instant escape. Everything is designed to make people feel comfortable for a few seconds, while quietly destroying their ability to endure anything difficult. People become emotionally fragile without understanding why. They lose patience, focus, hunger, not because they were born weak, but because comfort trained them to avoid resistance at all costs. The cruelest part is that comfort never looks destructive while it's happening. It feels peaceful, safe, easy. That's why invisible chains are so powerful. People protect the very prison that's destroying them. They defend their excuses. They defend their routines. They defend the habits keeping them small because breaking free would require pain, uncertainty, and sacrifice. The exact things comfort taught them to fear. Discipline is rarely loud. It doesn't arrive with excitement, applause, or dramatic music playing in the background. It doesn't announce itself the way motivation does. Motivation wants attention. It wants emotion. It wants the perfect mood, the perfect timing, the perfect moment to feel unstoppable. Discipline doesn't care about any of that. Discipline walks into your life quietly and says something most people hate hearing. Do it anyway. That's where the separation begins. Because emotions are unstable. They move like weather. One day you feel powerful, focused, and ready to conquer everything in front of you. The next day you feel tired, distracted, and empty for reasons you can't even explain. Most people build their actions around these emotional shifts. If the feeling is there, they move. If the feeling disappears, so do they. That's why so many dreams die in silence. Not because people lacked talent, not because they lacked intelligence. They simply depended on emotions to carry weight emotions were never designed to carry. Feelings are temporary sparks. They create excitement, but sparks disappear quickly. Discipline is different. Discipline becomes the engine. Think about how people start things. The beginning is always exciting. New goals feel exciting. New routines feel exciting. New plans create energy. People suddenly convince themselves that this time everything will change. They imagine future versions of themselves. They see success before they earn it. They become addicted to possibility. Then reality arrives. The alarm rings early. The work becomes repetitive. Progress slows down. Results become invisible. Sacrifice becomes real. Suddenly, the emotions that once felt powerful begin disappearing. Motivation leaves without warning. Excitement fades. Energy drops. That's where most people stop. Because they built movement on emotion instead of structure. They built action on excitement instead of commitment. The feeling disappeared, and with it, their entire system collapsed. Discipline operates differently. Discipline was never waiting for excitement in the first place. It never asks, "Do I feel like it today?" It asks a far more uncomfortable question. What needs to be done? That question changes everything. Because discipline understands something emotions never will. Feelings are unreliable leaders. Feelings tell you to rest when effort becomes uncomfortable. Feelings tell you to quit when progress becomes slow. Feelings tell you to avoid pain, avoid failure, avoid uncertainty. Discipline hears those voices and keeps moving anyway. That's why disciplined people often look strange from the outside. Others assume they possess unusual confidence or endless motivation. They think disciplined people wake up every day filled with energy and determination. They imagine some secret force pushing them forward. But most of the time, discipline happens on ordinary days. Days when energy is low, days when confidence disappears, days when excuses sound reasonable, days when quitting feels justified. Those are the moments discipline reveals itself. Not through emotion, through repetition, because discipline isn't built during easy moments. Anyone can move when they feel inspired. Anyone can work when they feel strong. Discipline is built when the feeling dies and action survives. That's the part most people never see. They see success and assume confidence created it. They see results and assume talent created them. They see progress and assume motivation stayed alive forever. They never see the silent moments, the mornings when someone got up without wanting to, the nights when someone kept working while exhausted, the days when progress felt invisible, the moments when emotions screamed, "Stop," while discipline whispered. Keep going. Emotions want immediate relief. Discipline understands delayed rewards. Emotions focus on today's comfort. Discipline focuses on tomorrow's consequences. Emotions seek escape routes the moment pressure appears. Discipline keeps walking through pressure because it understands pressure is temporary. And eventually something unsettling begins to happen. The person who once depended on feelings starts becoming stronger than feelings themselves. Emotions still exist. Doubt still exists. Fear still exists. Exhaustion still exists. But they stop controlling the direction because discipline keeps moving long after emotions leave the room. People love visible victories. They love applause, recognition, and moments the world can witness. They admire the celebration, but rarely respect the sacrifice hidden behind it. Everyone wants the results. Everyone wants the transformation. Everyone wants the future. But almost nobody wants the quiet price attached to it. Because the most powerful things a person builds are usually created in places where nobody is watching. Silent sacrifices are strange. They don't feel heroic when they happen. They feel lonely, repetitive, invisible. There are no crowds cheering for discipline at 5 in the morning. No audience applauding the nights you stay focused while everyone else disappears into comfort. No reward appears instantly. Sometimes it feels like you're giving things up while receiving nothing in return. That's why most people avoid sacrifice. Not because they're weak, but because humans naturally want evidence that their effort matters. They want signs, validation, immediate proof. They want to feel progress. But silent sacrifices don't offer emotional rewards in the beginning. They demand trust before evidence appears. And that's where people start breaking, because sacrifice begins taking things away. Time disappears. Comfort disappears. Entertainment disappears. Certain relationships begin changing. Old habits start dying. You become unavailable for things that once controlled your attention. And people notice. Suddenly they ask strange questions. Why are you so distant? Why don't you come around anymore? Why are you working so hard? Why are you taking life so seriously? Because people become uncomfortable when someone starts moving differently. Your discipline becomes a mirror. Your focus exposes their distractions. Your sacrifices remind them of promises they made and abandoned. And mirrors make people uneasy, so they misunderstand the process. They think you're becoming cold. They think you've changed. They think you've become obsessed. What they don't understand is that building a different future requires separation. Growth demands distance from certain comforts, routines, and patterns. You cannot become someone new while protecting every piece of your old life. That's the painful truth nobody enjoys hearing. To gain something greater, something smaller often has to die. And those deaths happen quietly. No funeral exists for old habits. No ceremony exists for distractions you abandon. No one congratulates the nights you choose discipline over pleasure. No one notices the moments you walk away from temporary satisfaction because you're chasing something larger than feelings. Silent sacrifices create invisible battles. The battle between immediate comfort and long-term purpose. The battle between who you are and who you could become. The battle nobody sees happening inside your mind, because there are days when sacrifice feels unfair. Days when you watch everyone else enjoying easy moments while you continue carrying pressure nobody understands. You start wondering if the effort matters. You start questioning whether the path is worth it. And that's where many people return to comfort. Not because they lost ability, because they got tired of being invisible. Humans crave acknowledgement. We want proof that pain has meaning. We want someone to say the struggle matters. But powerful futures are rarely built through visible rewards. They are built through repeated invisible choices, one quiet decision at a time, one unnecessary distraction ignored, one uncomfortable action repeated, one sacrifice no one notices, because success doesn't suddenly appear one dramatic morning. It forms slowly beneath the surface, hidden from everyone, like pressure building underneath the earth before an earthquake. Like roots growing beneath the ground before anyone sees a tree. And while people laugh, relax, delay, and chase whatever feels good in the moment, someone else keeps sacrificing in silence. Someone keeps building. Someone keeps preparing. Someone keeps enduring days that offer no applause, because they understand something terrifying most people never realize. The future isn't built during moments of excitement. It's built during moments nobody remembers. It's built in silence. It's built in sacrifice. It's built while the world is looking somewhere else. Most people don't lose their future in one dramatic moment. They lose it in small trades, quiet trades, invisible trades. A little comfort for a little delay. A little pleasure for a little distraction. A few moments of relief exchanged for opportunities they never realize are disappearing. And the strange part is they willingly make these deals every day without noticing the cost. Because temporary pleasure always arrives wearing a beautiful disguise. It speaks softly. It feels harmless. It says, just this once. It says, you deserve a break. It says, tomorrow is still there. And people listen because immediate pleasure feels real. It feels close. It feels rewarding. The human mind loves things it can touch right now. It craves comfort today more than rewards hidden months or years ahead. That's why long-term vision feels unnatural to most people. Vision demands patience. Vision demands sacrifice. Vision asks you to suffer today for something you cannot hold in your hands yet. And that creates tension inside people, because the mind constantly fights a war between immediate satisfaction and delayed rewards. Temporary pleasure always wins that battle at first, because pleasure makes no difficult demands. It doesn't ask you to endure discomfort. It doesn't ask you to wake up early, stay disciplined, or continue when energy disappears. Pleasure simply asks you to relax, escape, feel better now, and now becomes addictive. People become trapped in cycles they barely recognize. They chase entertainment because it feels easier than effort. They scroll endlessly because distraction requires less energy than focus. They choose comfort because discipline feels painful. They seek quick emotional rewards because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. Slowly, almost invisibly, temporary pleasures begin shaping entire lives. One delay becomes another. One distraction becomes a habit. One moment of escape becomes a lifestyle. And over time, something terrifying starts happening. People become experts at avoiding the future. They convince themselves they still have time. They convince themselves tomorrow will be different. They convince themselves they'll become disciplined later, focused later, serious later. Later becomes the safest lie ever created, because later creates the illusion of control while quietly stealing time. And temporary pleasure helps maintain that illusion. Temporary pleasure never wants growth. It wants repetition. It wants dependency. It wants people returning over and over again for small emotional rewards that disappear almost immediately after they arrive. Think about how quickly pleasure fades, the excitement disappears, the entertainment ends, the comfort passes, the feeling vanishes. Then people begin searching for the next escape, the next distraction, the next temporary relief, because temporary rewards rarely satisfy people. They create hunger instead. Long-term vision works differently. Vision asks painful questions. Questions most people avoid. Who are you becoming? What are your daily choices building? What future are your habits creating? Vision forces people to think beyond the emotion of the moment. It forces them to look past comfort and examine consequences waiting in the distance. And consequences are strange. They arrive silently. They arrive late. By the time consequences appear, the choices creating them have usually become habits. That's why people often feel shocked by outcomes they slowly built themselves. They wonder where time went. They wonder why opportunities disappeared. They wonder why life feels smaller than they imagined, not realizing their future was quietly shaped by thousands of small moments where temporary pleasure defeated long-term vision. Because every day creates a choice most people underestimate. A choice between relief and growth. A choice between comfort and progress. A choice between satisfying emotions now or building something larger later. And while most people continue chasing feelings that disappear by tomorrow morning, someone else is making invisible decisions that look boring today but become powerful years later. Because the future rarely belongs to people addicted to immediate rewards. It belongs to people willing to suffer through moments that offer no pleasure at all. Most people never realize they're being led. They think they're choosing their direction, making independent decisions, controlling their own path. But if you watch carefully, something darker reveals itself. They don't move according to purpose. They move according to emotion. Their choices rise and fall with moods, cravings, excitement, fear, and temporary feelings that change faster than weather. One day they're full of ambition. The next day they disappear into comfort. One moment they want greatness. The next moment they want escape. And without realizing it, they spend years following emotions that were never designed to lead anyone anywhere. Feelings are persuasive. That's what makes them dangerous. They don't arrive sounding like enemies. They arrive sounding reasonable. They whisper things people want to hear. Take it easy today. Rest a little longer. Start tomorrow. You deserve comfort. You've already done enough, and because those voices sound gentle, because they sound familiar, most people never question them. So they continue following feelings. They chase motivation when it appears. They chase excitement when it appears. They chase happiness when it appears. And when those feelings disappear, movement disappears too. That becomes the cycle. Move when emotions cooperate. Stop when emotions resist. Dream when energy feels high. Disappear when reality feels heavy. Years pass this way. not through catastrophic failure, not through dramatic collapse, through repetition, through invisible patterns, repeated so often they begin feeling normal, and while they continue reacting emotionally to everything around them, someone else begins moving differently, quietly, silently, without announcing anything, because while they're asking, "How do I feel today?" another person starts asking a different question, "What future am I building?" That question changes everything, because feelings only understand the present moment. Feelings care about comfort now, relief now, pleasure now. But future builders think differently. They understand that every choice becomes construction. Every habit becomes a brick. Every repeated action quietly builds something waiting ahead. Most people underestimate small actions because small actions don't feel important. Waking up early once doesn't seem important. Staying disciplined one day doesn't seem life-changing. Refusing distractions for one evening feels insignificant. But futures are never built in giant moments. They're built through repetition, one action repeated, one promise kept, one uncomfortable choice made again and again. While others continue following emotional weather patterns, future builders continue stacking invisible progress. And from the outside, it often looks strange. People begin wondering why you've become distant, why you disappear sometimes, why you say no more often, why you seem focused while everyone else is relaxing. Because people become uncomfortable around individuals building things they cannot yet see. The world celebrates visible results, but rarely understands invisible preparation. Nobody applauds discipline while it's happening. Nobody notices sacrifice while it's happening. Nobody recognizes construction while the foundation still sits underground. So they misunderstand your silence, they misunderstand your priorities, they misunderstand your distance, because from their perspective, you're missing opportunities for comfort. From your perspective, you're protecting opportunities they cannot see. That's the difference. They're chasing emotional rewards that disappear tomorrow. You're creating consequences that remain years later. They're building around feelings, you're building around purpose. And purpose becomes dangerous because purpose continues moving even on days emotions fail. Because future builders understand something most people discover too late. Feelings create moments, but repeated actions create lives. And while they continue following emotions from one day to the next, unaware of the invisible cycle controlling them, you keep building in silence, while the future slowly begins taking shape in places nobody else notices yet.